Hello and welcome to another episode of the Stalktober special event of the Heart of the Jakuls. I'm your appreciative host, Lothran, and right now we're headed back to the excavations. There's so much more work to bend our backs to. So hurry along and grab that snack you've been craving. Settle into your most beloved chair. Get as snug as you can. This is Chains of Life. Zokil glared up at the rattling coil of wire winding through the metal links that connected him to his ceiling rail. He was allowed to move along it at certain times of day. "Tara!" he shouted as she was pulled along and out of sight by a lanky overseer. "Tara!" "Calm yourself," one of the others pleaded with him under their breath. "They'll come for you next, and me because I'm close to you. Shut up already." He retreated back down the line, passing rows of food buckets, moving past his own without the slightest quake in his empty gut, and then beyond his washing chair, and further he went until he got to his semi-private waste basin, with two curved walls to block sight from most directions. And finally, after that, he crawled into his bed, a simple cot in a nook carved right into the cold stone wall. He dug under the pillow fixed to the cot. He'd hidden it there. Zokil didn't dare take out the gift Tara had given him. He hoped she'd do the same with the stone he'd shaped and polished for her. He held it in his hand, gripping it so strongly that the pain of it made it seem like the little object was all that was real in his life. Hidden while he pretended to languish on his bed in sadness, Zokil ate his rage, knowing it would bring an overseer if he attempted anything. He held the cat idol in his hand till it warmed and became hot from the energy he poured into it. Even if they took him, he would hold it somewhere in his head. Even if they smashed it before his eyes, he would still hold the little figure in his mind. He'd be given the same cell. They always brought them back. Tara would come back. She'd be in the same cell, right next to his. He sighed as he remembered the last time he saw her return. He felt the despair rise up and wash through him. Zokil let go of his charm, but somehow he still held it. He held it in his mind. She taught him how, so much, and now, nothing. The last time they'd taken her, whatever she had taught him, had been gone from her mind. But Zokil, holding the stone where he sat, even though it wasn't in his hand, he'd been taken a dozen times as well. But somehow he held it. He kept the stone, even in his hesitation, even in what little he knew of the outside world anymore. The stone was still in him, still a part of him. After all these attempts to wash it free, he still held the stone. He'd have to look her in the eyes and ask her who she was. If they were lucky, she'd come back. If. So much to pine about, so much to hate these lanky shitheads for. Nothing but being trapped here, in this dark abyss of sorrows, in this cauldron of the same 7 fears tossing around, breaking everything that it touched, every person that it held. He felt like the stones of a riverbed slowly worn away as endless amounts of water scraped across the surface that was his reality. Zokil wallowed in that feeling, having little else to do to pass the time, but let it all flow over him and wear him away ever so much more with each passing second. He could go to the exercise station any time. He could go eat another pile of bug-filled gruel to distract himself. He might walk up and down the line looking for tiny pebbles missed by the overseers whenever rocks fell from the ceiling. He might sit under the most dangerous sections for hours at a time, yet again hoping a giant slab would fall and crush him whole and end this horrible madness, like he'd done so many times before, laughing with her, with Tara. Zokil shifted his head, aware that time had passed. Had he fallen asleep? It was so difficult to tell. Everything faded into itself and out of a different moment. "Tara!" He'd been having a nightmare, maybe. Tara! He shifted out of his nook, reaching out to tap against the wall. A thick, hard stone that connected his nook to hers, one spot down the line. He felt a tiny tickle of hope as he watched someone walk back to her bed. Hey! Are you all right, Tara? She noticed the sound of his voice, and everything he'd ever hoped for was suddenly dashed away, with that lost expression staring in his direction. It was the same face, the same worn, ragged features, but the smile and life, they were gone, taken by a thief. The woman he'd spent all this time getting to know was gone. Not just now, but it reminded him of before, the last time he struck up a conversation with a new person that was the same one he'd always known. Swept under the rug, and after that into a dustbin and thrown into the trash, only to be replaced by a vacant, hollow-eyed nobody, afraid of the person calling out their actual name. Who are you? She called in the soft, pleasant, almost happy voice of hers, yet a little bit more defeated than the last time the lanky bastards brought her back. Do I know you? It was clear in her hesitant expression she really didn't recognize Zokil. After all the time they'd spent talking to one another and getting to know each other, all that had been swept away. You're Tara. I'm Zokil. We've been bunked next to each other for 2 years, he tried to explain as he crawled out of bed, relinquishing his grasp on the totem in its hiding hole, and suddenly realizing it had never been in his hand. He reached out for it again, grabbing it with his mind, never ready to let it go. I just got here. They told me my name was Lily? It sounds right, she replied as she shuffled towards her bed, looking more than a little frightened by the man trying to tell her things she knew to be false. I'm Lily, she repeated, as if that would make the words true. Zokil closed his eyes. He let all the emotions racing through his chest, threatening to pull him to the bottom of the ocean and let him drown in his horrors, flow right by his thoughts. Sorry, he began, leaning back on his bed. It's pretty dark here. He came up with some sort of excuse. I thought you were someone else. Those lanky fucks. They'd taken him a dozen times since Tara had given him the roughly cat-shaped stone no bigger than her little thumb. Why hadn't he forgotten? Hey, can you do me a favor? Sure, but I'm Lily. You know that, right? I'm not your friend. I'm sorry. It's dark. You look a little like her. I haven't been outside for a long time. Zokil apologized. She forgot something I gave her before she was taken away. Check the bed till you find it. He waited in the stretching silence, seeming to sit and sweating tension for an eternity. Found it. Do you want it back? She asked, sounding happy with herself. It's pretty cute. Almost a dog with one floppy ear. No, you keep it safe. They never look where you found it. Thank you. What's your name? She asked after Zokil heard her rustling the coarse cloth of the bed to put the small stone totem back under her pillow. It's Zokil. Pleased to meet you. He grit his teeth, thinking such dark thoughts about those tall monsters that did this to her, to so many like her before this. Both of his fists were clenched so hard he started drawing blood, and that blood, somehow it leaked into the stone in his mind, making it larger and stronger and harder. That's a pretty weird name. She giggled ever so slightly in the same way Tara always had. That was something. Zokil let his hands go limp. You want me to show you around? There's not much to see, but there's a few tricks you won't get without an expert there to show you. Can I rest first? I'm awfully tired. I'm so dizzy. and I feel so... It's like I've lost something. Lily had the same lilt of her voice that Tara did whenever she felt too exhausted to bear another second of being awake. Sure thing. Zokul glanced at the ceiling, leaned back into his bed. We've got plenty of time. And so it is that we've come to the end of our path together once more. This was Chains of Life, another tale placed among so many others like it, straight from the heart of the Jakuls. I've been your host, Lothran, and I lead you to Brumble's expert hands. Go ahead, Brumble. Take us out.
Hello and good night to each and all. Leave your comments, questions, and pleasantries down below. Like and share to help us learn, spread, and grow. And feed a hungry Brumble. That's me. And don't forget, we encourage each and every one of you to do your best to stay safe out there. Goodbye. Goodbye, bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Be safe.